Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, and we are here live for Deep Astrology, your weekly astrology forecast for the week of March 24th through the 30th of 2020. We are exclusive for HighVibe.tv, so if you're a member of HighVibe.tv, you get to watch this show live, and of course, you get the whole show in its full entirety. That's also when we show the charts. But if you're on YouTube watching this, you are watching the recording of this, and of course, you don't get to see the charts, but you get the audio portion of when I go through the charts on the second part of this show. I do want to remind people that on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. I'm doing my Love Masterclass. This show has been popping. So many people have been learning how to learn their love story, learn the love story of others, and learn their own faults in their love stories of their lives, how to attract the right partner, all based off your own chart. I teach you how to go through your chart. We have a live aspect to it on Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. if you want to be part of that live. Don't worry, though. The recordings are always out after, so people are doing this course without even being part of the live. I understand we all have lots of changes going on in our lives right now, but there's definitely that added portion. Plus, we have a Facebook group just exclusive for people that are part of the class, and we also have the commenting under each video and the course aspects as well. So you can go to leoking.com or highvibe.tv to join now and start watching the last 4 classes, which is over 12 hours of video. And you learn astrology while doing it too. If you want to learn about your chart in a way specifically about love, I teach you everything there is, and I go way overboard on this thing. We're actually extending it to 9 weeks because my classes have been running 3.5 to 4 hours a class. So if you want to get astrology and you want to learn the love story so big about you and other people and your own faults and your own greatness, check it out now, plus all my secrets and the traditional astrology aspects of how to run relationship charts and so forth. Now, if you never watched the show before, this is where I channel the astrology for you and I give it to you all deep. And then, of course, we go deep into the charts, which are brought to you by Astro Gold that you get on iOS, Android, and, of course, any Mac device. But if you are on a PC, make sure that you check out Solar Fire. Just want to say thank you to everybody there at Esoteric Technologies for their awesome chart work and allowing us to use the charts on all of our programming. Programming, that's kind of an interesting word to come out of that with because we are being reprogrammed. It's a new moon in Aries, and this new moon in Aries, of course, is powerful because we just days ago came into the equinox on March 19th. And March 20th on other parts of the world, but this is when the sun reaches its equinox point. We're at equal night and equal day, and this is a time where we move into the new season. We step into the new energy. It's the new year in Western astrology, and the new moon, believe it or not, in Pisces, which is if you move it back to sidereal, is actually the new year in Vedic astrology. So we are here fully in the astrology world as the new year, the new cycle, and this one is happening with Chiron and Aries. Lilith in Aries as well on top of Chiron. There's a lot about facing so much when it comes to healing, but you know, that's such a typical way of looking at Chiron. We need to remember that Aries itself deals with strength, identification, and that individuality of who we are in this life. And this is all about these weird aspects, because Chiron's a lot more than just healing. It's healing the things of vulnerability, the uniqueness of the weirdo that you are inside, the understanding that you're a human in a world that you are trying to understand a reality and a metaphysical reality, and you're caught in between both. There's so many aspects to Chiron that I can go through. I could just do multiple videos about it. Actually, in my Love Masterclass, I go deep into it and how it affects your love life. But this is a time where we have to truly start to accept an identity consciousness in the collective and individually that doesn't look the way we want to. Remember, Chiron is this deformed dwarf planet. It didn't become one, but it's now termed much more like an asteroid. And it really does become this weird moment in life where we do have this weird moment where things happen out of nowhere. You get phone calls out of nowhere, and, you know, Chiron is that thing where it's like, I have to get through this weird situation and I might feel weird. It kind of reminds me of like if you were in a board meeting and it was your first day on the job and the next thing you know is, you know, you're in that board meeting and your phone goes off and it's got that weird ringer, you know, that you don't want everybody to hear. That is Chiron, that feeling of, oh my gosh, how am I taking this on? Sometimes also as Chiron has to deal with taking on other people's crap and not getting anything back in return. But you have to remember that you're always getting something back in return, whether that's from spirit or so forth. But the main deal of this new moon on Chiron, it is trying to heal this world and this collective. But a lot of it is about accepting the identity of the way things are and removing the ego of how we want things to look. Because the more that we want things to look, the more you're going to feel that Chiron element of feeling like a victim. And this is a time for us to accept what's in front of us, especially now that Saturn's entered into Aquarius. We are in a whole new world, right? This is a whole new entire reality that we're starting to look at. Last time that Saturn came into Aquarius at the very beginning of the 90s, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have email, we didn't have any of this stuff. And if you really look at for the last 30 years of our lives and how technology has changed our lives, we're about to go through a completely other world that we can't even fathom at this moment. I mean, I remember watching Laserdisc when Saturn was in Aquarius with my grandfather and thinking that that was the biggest mind blow of my life, let alone that I was just watching a YouTube video. We were just watching videos here in the app, Craig and I, for High Vibe, and the fact that we even have an app and we distribute all around the world and we're on Apple TV and Roku and all this stuff. I mean, it just is mind blowing to think that's where we've gone to. And I remember having Laserdisc was like already the cool, weird thing. Or even CDs, I remember, with anti-skip mode and, you know, these things in life that we've all gone through. We need to realize that we don't understand the powerful new world that is being brought before us. And it's always when beautiful things happen, it always feels like we have to face the old end. And we need to start to understand that this is the ending of an old world that we're really tired of and over with. And I think that this reset point for us with Chiron is a healing one. And with Lilith there, it's going to happen no matter what we think or no matter what, you know, we want it to look like. It's just going to happen. And it's about the learning of accepting. Remember that this new moon is an exact square to the nodes, which are in Cancer and Capricorn, and exactly at 4 degrees this new moon is happening, which is exactly square the solar eclipse that happened on Christmas or December 26th, depending where you were on the world of 2019. Now, what does that exactly mean? Well, I would say that number one is we are at the halfway point of where we are from eclipse cycles. And so this has been a crazy 3 months. We all knew it as astrologers coming in, especially when the Saturn-Pluto happened on January 12th and the lunar eclipse that was on January 10th with Saturn and Pluto. You know, this has been an eclipse cycle that is not going to be an easy one to deal with. The good news is we've made it halfway through, and we are on the second half of this to get through this. But we need to really start to realize that when we are at these points, when we look at the nodes from especially a lunation cycle like this of a new moon, because the nodes are the nodes of the moon. And these are these invisible knots that tell us the cycles of where the eclipse cycles are going to happen in the cross on the ecliptic of where we're actually going to see the cross point of the sun and the moon that creates these magical moments where you can see the sun and the moon create eclipse cycles. Now we are at the farthest away from where an eclipse could happen. So that's the irony of a new moon square the nodes, is there's no way that an eclipse could happen here. And so this is where it's like, we want major change like an eclipse brings, but at the same time, maybe this is a moment for us to really start to see that we are halfway to that next point, which is in the next 3 months, especially as we come into the next season, which ironically enough is the solstice on June 20th and 21st is when we're going to have the next solar eclipse. So this is a very intense time for us to realize that there's a lot of healing to be had, and number one, it's by accepting the emotions and the identity of the way that things are instead of trying to control the identity of how you want things to look, because that's not going to bring you comfort when you're just going to be stuck in this control cycle and trying to control your ego and how your ego wants to look life, because guess what? The more you try to force things right now into this kind of egoic control system way in yourself, you're going to notice that it becomes getting rid of your comforts. It's not going to be comfortable because you think that you're doing everything to get your comfort when really comfort could be found right now. I mean, I'll be honest, I feel more comfortable right now, and especially the spring, wearing a t-shirt than I do, you know, a jacket. So I'm not going to wear a jacket just because I don't want, you know, because maybe it'll like look better or something. I'm going to feel comfortable now. I'm going to feel comfortable in things that are out of my control, right? Like, it's spring. I can hear birds in the background. There's sunlight. Okay, I put on a t-shirt. But I know that sounds so stupid, but it's like, this is like where the world right now has to really go into simplistic form. Aries is very simple. What do you really want? So yes, I know I just talked about letting go of the ego, but this is actually also at the same time bringing up the healthy ego with Chiron. What is the ego that is going to do things that are going to heal yourself better? By accepting the world and what it is, but also starting to see through the lines that actually target us to feel better in our lives. And to accept that there are things in life right now that are not going into the way that we understand, the way that the world should typically work, right? Capricorn is this gear on a clock. It's the gears of life and how we see the world and how it should work. And with Jupiter and Pluto meeting this week, all through the week, we have not seen Jupiter and Pluto meet together in a conjunction point since the end of 2007, in November into December there. And that was in Sagittarius. So that was this big open range of so many options and so many big things. And if you look at your life since 2007, it's been quite the journey, right? You've had so many experiences. There's just been so many things in life that have taken off and explored and exploded into experience. But in Capricorn, it feels a little weird for us to adjust to not as many experiences, ones that are more focused on a meaning and a purpose and a direction in life. And that's a little hard because you feel the constraint, but there's something about the constraint in the world right now that we have to see beyond our ego's identity of how we used to see and look at things. This is a complete new world change with Saturn in Aquarius. And this is where we have to realize that maybe we have to give the experiment a chance. Because there is actually something better and greater on this new world that is beginning. And no, I am not Illuminati, and no, I am not part of the New World Order, because some people might think that by the way I'm saying this. Look beyond that. Look beyond any of the stuff that you're seeing right now in the world that's causing people to have fear and yada yada. Start to see that the changes that are happening in our lives are making us focus on things that are much more important in our lives. I love Sagittarius because of the experience we have and the journeys and the travel. But now that Jupiter and Pluto are about to have their conjunction, the biggest planet and Pluto, the most extreme, very small, but transformational at the highest degree, this is time for our experience to be much more directed. Instead of it being a wild shootout or a wild carnival of experiences. Let's be honest, when you go to the carnival, it's fun to experience as much as you can, but the older you get, you start to go, I don't know if I can handle Gravitron all the time. I don't know if I could do the zipper every time. I don't know if I could eat that many corn dogs with, chocolate and ketchup on top, and maybe let's add some donuts in between them. It's like, I don't know how much I could do of that anymore. So this Jupiter-Pluto is asking for us this week, while we're in this new moon in Aries cycle, to truly start to realize, what is actually the things, if we were to think of life as the carnival that it is right now, that actually are the points of where I really want to understand, to put my energy and transform my life here and actually explore these areas that are much more defined. Because remember, this is a cardinal sign, and the last Jupiter-Pluto happened a mutable sign. So it's more mutative. It's like we kept changing our experience all the time. Now Jupiter and Pluto for the next, 13-year cycle is going to be about a much more defined element. Like, this is the area where I want to explode my NASA rockets into a certain space. Space. It's kind of an interesting thing with Saturn in Aquarius, and especially with Mars that comes into Aquarius next week. On that 30th, that night of that 30th into the 31st, when Mars and Saturn are going to meet in Aquarius. But we have to get there first. This week is the end of Mars in Capricorn, its exaltation. So Mars loves Capricorn, and things are going to feel extreme still when it comes to the world. Remember, Mars is a very harsh planet, and with the malefic energy that it's approaching of Saturn, these two together can be harsh. I was born with Mars and Saturn in the same sign of Scorpio, very close to each other. So I've learned this in my own life. But what I've also learned is it's given me focus and determination. And when I see something that I want, and I see something that I'm going to put my long-term efforts in, and I'm going to stay at it, it becomes what I want. So I will say that even though, yes, Mars and Saturn can be harsh, it can also be the most beautiful energy if you focus right now. You focus on what's important. This is not a time for us to go and try and replay 2007 and even the last 13 years that brought us up to this point. Because I'm sorry to say that the old experiences you had and the way that your life was experienced is over. I know that might be the hardest thing in life to hear. That even when all this ends, that we just think we're going to go back to the normal way, it will not be that way anymore. Because we've all changed inside through this Jupiter-Pluto that, believe it or not, is happening through this week and finishing into next week. And with Mars and Saturn that are happening at 0 Aquarius, this is such a major point because this is where Jupiter and Saturn are going to meet on December 21st of 2020. So there's something to say about this new zone. And this new zone is Aquarius. And there's a lot that's building there, but we got to get there first. We got to finish this control issue. We got to realize that there is no way to control the things in life that we think we can control right now. There isn't. The best moves that you can make right now is actually starting to see in life going, this is actually where I want to focus my energy in my life, and maybe I need to keep looking for all these other options in my life that really don't have much more meaning than the most important things that are set in front of me that actually are connected to a better emotional life. And that brings up Venus. Venus is in Taurus, its home sign. It's dignified here, and it's making great trines to Pluto, to Jupiter this week. And it's really going to be defined with the moon. The moon's going to come into its exaltation of Taurus with Uranus here. There is so much in Earth this week that is truly bringing us to the quality and the bigger decisions in our life that are going to bring us to a place that's going to feel better. And I think that when it comes to feeling better in our life, it's about what's the best, what's the most important in our life. I know experiences over the last 13 years have been great. Technically, I think it's more like 12. But I will say that it has been these experiences that have taught us the things, and we have explored so many things of what we like and what we don't like in our life, what stories we want to have and which ones we don't. Because if you have the time, which I'm sure you do, especially, maybe if you're in California like us and we are locked down still, that you start to review all the experiences in your life that you had, and you realize that even though there's parts of yourself that can't go do some of the major, we can't pretty much do anything that we used to be able to do, let's be real. It's helping you see, well, if I could do that right now, would I jump for that? What is the thing that you would do if the door kind of opened up for you right now? And you would start to realize that a lot of the things that you used to think aren't. And that's the big change that's happening this week. And I think it's a beautiful change. I think it's a change we've all been looking for. And Venus is really helping out this week because it is going to be trining the malefic energies all as they are coming together. It's going to be trining this Jupiter-Pluto conjunction happening. So it means that the biggest change of our life, that even though, yes, it might feel much more defined and restricted, but it's not restricted. It's much more about our long-term energies, the things we really want to reach in our life. And when we really start to put it together, when it's connected with Venus, especially before it goes retrograde, thank God, it's this moment for us to realize that this is about to build the most beautiful things in relationships, the most beautiful things that we can create in our life, the things that can make us feel better because there has been something missing. Remember that Venus is the ruler of Libra as well, and the last Saturn-Pluto conjunction that happened prior to January 12th of 2020 was in Libra in 82 and 83. And so we've been waiting to understand what the new cycle of Libra would feel like, since we haven't had really much time to even process that the biggest relationship changes of our life are happening right now. The way that we approach relationships, the way that we see them, the ones that we really want to focus on in our lives that are going to take us to the place that is truly in our self-worth, in our true nature, and what really feels good in our life. And I think that is so important, that is so imperative right now in life, is to remember that there is the most beautiful things in the background that seem like they're not around. They're around, but there is this Plutonian energy with the South Node in Capricorn that's trying to hide that in many ways. And then there's another part of Pluto that's trying to do the good thing, that's trying to help you go inside and see it and bring it out with Jupiter to experience that new thing. It is a time for us to remember that, yes, we're in Aries. So this is going to be a time for you to redefine your whole life and reprogram your identity and heal, as the Sun and Chiron will meet this week. And this is an important conjunction point, because this is while Jupiter and Pluto are meeting. This is while Venus will start to be trining Jupiter and Pluto. There are so many great things in life that we can have, and we can shed the past, and we can shed the past of the ego's identity in the way that we should or think that we should see things in our life. And I think that overall, when I take a look at everything else in this astrology, it is Saturn in Aquarius. It is Mars that will approach that 0 point by Monday night. That is the exact point to where, ironically enough, 4 years almost, is exactly when Mars crossed this space during the election night with Hillary and Trump. So there's something very unique going to happen here come next week on Monday and Tuesday with Mars and Saturn meeting in Aquarius at 0. Because it was the night that the election happened with Hillary and Trump that Mars was at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and then it went to 0 degrees of Aquarius. We're about to see that happen again. That also happened the last time that Mars was in its retrograde in 2018, in July into August of 2018. So it's going to be quite interesting to see that was a time preparing for, if I'm correct, that was going into the election cycle and the change in people's ideas and so forth about elections and where things were going was building up into that till that November. And here's Mars about to shift the paradigm of where people feel they should be going in that way, if we were to kind of understand things from looking at history of transits. And it always does affect the president, actually, of America a lot because of that transit that happened. So it's going to be interesting to see the intensity of that Mars and Saturn together at that spot, because Mars has crossed there the night of the election, then in August of 2018, multiple times actually with the retrograde, but it's going to be interesting to see it now here with Saturn. So that's going to bring something unpredictable and different that we really all can't fathom at this moment. And I want you all to remember that this moment is a moment of a new world. And I know it looks like that this new world is going to be, trust me, I've been listening to all the guys on YouTube that I appreciate, and both of them are named Davids. And I'm sure you all know there's a David I and there's a David W, and I love them too. And they're bringing out a lot of great truth right now of what could happen. But as an astrologer, I've been saying this for years to people, that whenever all these planets, especially malefics, are with the South Node, the plans get foiled. And I know it might sound crazy, but right now, as I'm about to go into the charts, I'm about to show you and I'm about to tell you, don't have fear. If you have fear of the world going to this place of control that's going to let you go of the control and lose the life that you want to have, we don't know what this new world will look like, but I'll tell you that in the end of it all, and whatever is about to happen through this 2020, that we need to remember that even though it looks like the darkest, there is the brightest dawn that is coming, and every day that I watch the astrology, it just keeps showing that we are moving more and more into better energies. And I know that might sound crazy because it's hidden, and it's actually not hidden when you feel that inside and you get out of the fear and you start to see the excitement and the power of this new moon in Aries, that we are all individually reprogramming ourselves to be better, to be stronger warriors of truth, and to be stronger warriors of healing. And the end of the day is that all individuals right now have to be healers, because we all have to heal ourselves inside, and that's how we heal the collective when we heal others. And it's when we let go of the idea of how everybody should be, or how this person should be, or how I should be in myself, and we let go and we come from that pure state of being willing to show up and accept the way things are and trust the higher source that is happening right now on the planet, that is a higher source that is connecting things that we can't see, but it's doing that great work when you tap in. Let's take a look at the charts. Hello. Woo! Crazy times. I'm loving these times in a weird way. Outside of, I've gone through tons of fear too, like everybody else. So I don't want people to think that I'm just sitting here like, this is the most amazing time ever. But I will say that this new moon does feel better. It does feel like a confident energy for us all to realize that we are going to make it through this world. We are going to find ways. We are going to have to accept life. And this is a moment for us to realize that. And that's why I really wanted to say that at that last part of the channeling part of Deep Astrology. Now, this is where we go to the charts. If you are not part of highvibe.tv and you're here on YouTube, this is a recording you're actually now watching, even though I'm live right now on highvibe.tv, which you can get on Apple TV, Roku, iOS, Android, and any of your computers or web services on highvibe.tv. If you join now, you can also get my daily exclusive horoscopes, my monthly stuff that I do, my weekly sun sign horoscopes. There's so many special things that we do on there. We do full disclosure. We have so many other awesome people doing amazing work on there every day. Daily horoscopes, angel card readings, channelings. There's a team on High Vibe that is just bringing high vibes all day, and we're doing something that we've been putting so much work into for years, and it really has come to its fruition. And I have to thank everybody out there, and especially for all those on High Vibe right now, for you being a member and totally being here for us, and us being there to create that community vibe of the collective conscious, and we're all sending out the great vibes, and we're all going into deep truth, because we can't say everything we want to say on YT. You know, unfortunately. So, anyway, YouTubers, you get the audio now, and if you're on High Vibe, let's look into these charts. All right, let's look at what we got here. First, we got this Tuesday. All righty, March 24th. This new moon has happened early this morning at around 3 a.m. Pacific, 6 a.m. Eastern, and here's the sun at 4 degrees, ready to come on top of Chiron right away on Tuesday into Wednesday. So the sun and moon literally met in their new moon cycle with this Chiron element right here. And this is important because there's a lot about the key of life. And that's why I love looking at the glyph of Chiron, right? It's a key. And it's the key to unlocking your true vulnerabilities and your true human experience. And so this is a moment for us to really start to see that we can unlock the greatest keys of life, the greatest keys of our soul, the greatest keys to our true identity, which really I believe that ego is a part of life. But I think that when we get lost in the whole identity of ego being about a picture on Instagram or how somebody does something, I think we need to remember that ego is about identification. And if we all are reprogramming our identification, we're all healing, because let's be honest right now, the typical way we understand the ego is not really able to do what it wants, right? Like, I was laughing with Craig actually right before this. We were on Instagram, and when you go to the suggested part, right, it's like you could just see like, oh, when you go and search, like, what are the suggested pictures? And as a guy, they target guys with girls, and they target girls with, I don't know, I don't really look at girls' Facebook or Instagrams, but I'm sure they target it with something that's very girly, right? Like maybe like clothes, or maybe, but with guys, it's these models, and it's like all these models are like, they can't go outside, right? So they're like posting old pictures, or it's like, me in my house on quarantine, and I'm wearing this outfit, and it's just kind of like, this is the reprogramming, where it's like, there's a new identity coming out for all of us, and we have to not be even making fun of that. I just think it's unique. It's weird, right? It's Chiron. It's weird. It's weird to see the world change. It's weird to see the identity of our world change. But it's, I think, kind of a beautiful thing. It's like going to make people realize, is that what I really identify with anymore? We're all changing our identities and our identification of how life looks in order for us individually now to connect with what really will bring us the healing and the satisfaction and the true happiness, because I feel that there's so much happiness with Aries. Happiness is when we have that cardinal energy of Aries, the sun's exalted here, and it's moving in a direction that says, this is what I want in my life. And this is with now Chiron that says, I've been through the things that feel weird. I've seen this weird world, and I'm accepting this real world. And with all these squares, right, from the sun and Chiron here to the nodes, which, by the way, the nodes are at 3 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn, which was during the 9/11 attacks. So it's kind of interesting to see that we're at this position to where this is only lasting quick. It's only lasting a couple days. You'll see by the end of this week in the charts that we're already past that. So it's like, yes, it kind of feels like a little 9/11-ish about what's really going on and what happened and how did all this happen. We're about to see what the plans really are. And I've been saying that, and especially I feel that way because of this big Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that's happening. I know I talked much more about the personal elements of it, of the great change in your life and the opportunities that were, like honestly, Santa gave all his gifts over the last 12 years. And let's just be real, like, that's changing, and it might feel like coal, but I don't think that it's coal. I think that it's more like, okay, what's the big gift you want behind the tree? Let's be honest. We get so much, in American culture when we're young at Christmas, we got stockings, and then we got little gifts, and then we got gifts from our aunts and gifts from here. But it was always, what's the big gift Santa gave behind the tree, which was really, I don't want any kids watching this, but it was really your parents that just picked the big gift, right? And if you were lucky enough to even have that, right? Chiron stuff brings up for people who didn't have that. They get Chiron is your triggers. Chiron is where, I didn't get that. Chiron in Aries also as well is the whole thing of like, you got that and I didn't get that. You got to let go of that because then you create yourself as a victim. Maybe you didn't get that, but you maybe got something else that other person didn't get. We all go through experiences and we all have an identity of this life that's different than everybody else. But this Jupiter-Pluto is about to expose whatever these big plans have been that have been hidden. Jupiter at least is helping Pluto try to understand, like, what have you been changing here? Like, you have to remember that in 2008, when Pluto went into Capricorn, Jupiter was already in front of it and passed it during the last Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that happened in Sag. So now Jupiter, for the first time in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, is now looking at Pluto like, hey, so what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? What are we going to change here? I need to understand, because Jupiter is the extra fuel, or it's the bigger, it's the biggest planet with all the moons, and it wants to try and understand, right? Jupiter is a planet about wanting to know, what are you changing? And that's where we all feel so lost. What in this world is changing? What is the structure of this world going to look like? And that's what's about to be revealed over this next week into next week, as Jupiter and Pluto are going to be together at 23 and 24 here for a minute here this week. Here's Mars at 25 at the beginning on its way to Saturn. So these two are going to meet at 0 Aquarius. And that's why I was bringing up that this will be a big transit you'll see on Monday, Tuesday, especially this was the exact build up to when Trump and Hillary were fighting, and the end of that result for there was when Mars went into Aquarius. And Trump actually won, believe it or not. So I forgot to mention as well that Mercury is in Pisces still, but it is coming out of its shadow period. Remember, it went retrograde at 12 degrees of Pisces. By Sunday, Mercury is out of retrograde. Out of its shadow from its retrograde cycle. So Mercury will be coming a lot more clear, even though it will still have to go through Neptune, it will still have to be in Pisces, its fall position. But there is so much in the astrology that's showing a buildup of a new world and a more positive world. And I know that might sound crazy from what you're seeing everywhere else, but it is happening. Whether people want to like to hear that shit or not, and there's a lot of people in denial of that because they're lost in the fear factor of Jupiter-Pluto. And yes, there's a lot that's out there that you could be afraid of, but I'm trying to show you, especially with Mars and Saturn, I was born with Mars and Saturn and shit worked out for me, all right? You know what I mean? So I can speak to this one. And Venus here in Taurus at 20 degrees, it is going to show you this week how it's making amazing trines to Jupiter and Pluto, which is so positive to me and so impressive and a beautiful aspect of this time. So if we look at the middle of the week here, things change up after this new moon, and we do get a little bit of some emotional tests on Wednesday, and that's because the Sun and Chiron are going to meet exactly at 5 degrees, and that's of Aries, and the moon here is going to be in Aries, and it's to start squaring Jupiter and Pluto as they're meeting, and it's also going to square over to Mars that night. So just realize that Wednesday night, you might be frustrated with some sort of block. You might be frustrated with some sort of emotional thing you want. And this is going to be the greatest ego test ever with the Sun on Chiron. So just be prepared for Wednesday, especially into the evening, or for those in Australia or anywhere else on the farther side of the world that's plus of the universal time, any +4 to +8 hours of universal time. You're going to see this more on Thursday. in your morning and Thursday in your afternoon. But I will say that there's a big challenge here, as the moon is going to square Jupiter, square Pluto, square Mars, and square Saturn and Aquarius. We have not had really any negative aspects from the moon to Saturn and Aquarius yet. So we're going to feel the more lessons that Saturn and Aquarius is about this new world, and a lot of it is going to deal with ego and the way that you want to feel things, or the things that you might want to have physically in your life. And this is going to be a minor moment, but it's a great test with the Sun and Chiron. It's a great test for you to just drop and be like, the more you drop, like, oh, I wish I could have this right now, or I want it to look this way, and you let go and be like, okay, it can't be that way, and I let it go, you'll get through this quicker. And then the universe will start to show something in front of you that you don't even realize yet that can truly be a healing element to that, and still be excited about whatever it is that you want. It might just be a delay in a date, might just be a delay, because especially it's dealing with Capricorn, right? It's like, okay, maybe that the date of now isn't there, but maybe the date in the future is there, especially with Saturn and Aquarius when the moon comes into Taurus into that Thursday. But we are seeing Mercury as well, still in shadow. It's at a dark kind of phase still, in my opinion, because it's in shadow and it's lost in Pisces. So this is where, you know, it might look more worse than it all really is. So just accept the way that it is at the moment and just trust the process and just release the process for a moment here. The other thing is Neptune is at 19 degrees. Now, we have never seen Neptune at 19 degrees since the 1850s. And it's ironic because the time cycle before that was the witch trials of 1692. And if you watch my weekend video that I had done over the weekend about Saturn and Aquarius, I showed you the Neptune at 19 degrees mark about the witch trials that was between February and May of 1692. So there's going to be some sort of witch trial coming out. Now, maybe not literally the old way of witches, but whether that's the enemy that the universe or the world's going to try and show. But just be prepared. There's going to be some sort of country or persons or group or something that is behind something that everybody is going to demonize. And we're going to start to see this really come out. Because if you remember that with Neptune, even though it's just begun at 19, it's going to come to 20 this year in retrograde. It's going to come back to 19, and then it's going to come back to 19 again, and then it's going to come back to 19 again over 2021. So we're going to see multiple passes of this Neptune at 19, but we're going to see the beginnings, and it might be very small this week. But that's where, as I'm asking all high vibers and all people that follow me on YouTube to really start to process, what is it that you can see, especially because Neptune rules the media, what is it that you're going to see in the media and stories and stuff like that that's going to bring out some sort of witch trial or some sort of demonization of a group, a person, or some sort of country even possibly too? Or a religious area or a religious faction, right? Like a religious place that's against something too. This is going to be I'm putting it out here now live, and I've been saying this one since 2016 on Age of Deception. Here it is. And then if you watch Rising Through the Darkness, I talk about it too. But, you know, there's a lot of videos I've been putting out for many years about this Neptune at 19, Neptune at 19. And here it is. So I'm interested in that. And it's with the Sun on Chiron as that happens on Wednesday. Let's go to Thursday. And we are going to see a radical change in the astrology because the moon will come into Taurus, which is exalted. And so we have a Sun in Aries, if we check this out, right? So Sun in Aries is exalted. Excellent position, okay? Oh, sorry, there's no H. I always mess that one up. Exalted. And then we get the moon in Taurus exalted. So we have the sun, we have the two luminaries in their vacation homes. I guess if you were a celebrity and you bailed out of a state that was dealing with Corona, you went to your vacation house. Craig and I were having talks about that. People putting on their Instagram, their lives like quarantine, and they're like in the tropics somewhere. Like, what? But I think that, you know, might sound crazy, even though all of us didn't have maybe a vacation home or something to go to. There's something in the astrology that's allowing something to come up as we go through the major tests of Wednesday and Wednesday night, or if you're on the other side of the world, Thursday into this will be your Friday. We're going to see this positive energy for the sun and the moon. They're both in the signs that they love to be in. And especially Venus. Venus and Taurus, it loves to be here. It's dignified, right? It's at its strongest point in Taurus, and it's fixed Earth. And guess what? It's making trines to Jupiter, and it's making the trine now to the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction here at 23 and 24, while this moon is coming in, and the moon will be on Uranus. So there's going to be some definite major shifts about us emotionally wanting to feel the confidence to move forward and feel things differently. And believe it or not, relationships, projects are coming to major positive aspects in life. Whether we see, especially if I want to use more mundane astrology, in the government, a big influx of cash to people, or some sort of bailout, or, you know, I know they might pass that thing earlier. I'm recording this on Tuesday night. I don't think it's passed fully yet. But I will say that this is definitely the signs that the biggest transformation about money, the biggest transformation about relationships in your life are coming. So let's be prepared for this, and there's a positive aspect to it all. And we just need to, again, with Chiron and Aries, roll with it. Roll with however it might not look the way it should look, or look the way you think it all should look. But keep rolling with what feels good and just go. The universe with Uranus and Taurus is just get there. You know, I want to remind people that the last time Uranus was in Taurus was during the 1930s and during Hitler coming into his power and the world going through its World War II and there was depression and there was all these things, and it was like learning to roll with things. We're not going to have to go through it as different. It's totally flipped with Pluto being in Capricorn, because remember, it was Pluto in Cancer during that time. Okay? We're dealing with the Pluto and Capricorn. That's going to try and sustain the whole entire ship from sinking. Even though it's a sinking ship, it's got a lot of plugs. But I think that we're going to see this beautiful element on Thursday start to be felt. So on Friday, we're going to see, again, that moon in Taurus, and it's really going to start to kick into high gear here, as it's going to be with Venus at 23, and that Venus will make that trine to Jupiter. So that's very positive. It's very supporting energy, and a lot of great gifts and positive feelings, especially that the moon will be right there with Venus, and you'll be able to see that moon and Venus so bright on Friday night. Go outside, even if you're on quarantine, you're allowed to walk outside your house, or even if you have a window, whatever, go look on that western horizon after the sun sets. You will see the most beautiful moment ever, and you will be able to feel it, because Venus and the moon together in Taurus is one of the best Venus-moon conjunctions you could ever have in astrology. Period. There is no actually better one, because Venus is exalted here. Dignified, and the moon's exalted. And this is a feel-good energy, and it's in trines with Jupiter and Pluto of the great change, and you will start to feel this great change, and you will be releasing the old. Start to see that moon and Venus, the brightest two energies that could be in the sky. Remember that the moon is the brightest at night, and Venus is the second brightest. But if we're going to talk about actual planets or star energy in the sky, it is Venus. And so to see these two together, and it's going to be a moon that'll be a crescent moon. It's going to be picturesque, and it's going to be a waxing moon, a positive one. I'm telling you, in ancient astrology, this is so positive. Let that energy into your life. Go outside and look at it and say, I'm done with the old world. I understand the last 12 to 13 years was all these experiences. I'm ready to focus on what I want, and set that intention of what you want in your life and your self-worth and value from a place of non-ego, but from a place of true value of what you are thankful for and grateful for in this life. We're going to see the moon with Neptune at that time as well, and Venus close to that, and Mercury's now at 10. It's ready to get out of its retrograde shadow position that it was in. Oh my gosh, so much going on. Saturday, still have that moon in Taurus with Venus. Yes, baby. We're going to still feel that through Saturday, and we're going to still see it with a trine now to Pluto. So there's so much change in relationships and projects and feeling better in the process of Jupiter approaching this Pluto the whole time. We're less than a degree away. And we're going to see Mars at 28 degrees making trines to that moon. There's going to be a lot of forward movement and a lot of positive energy coming into this week. I know Wednesday is not going to be the best day for it, but we're going to see it. Also on Saturday, Mercury at 11 degrees, almost out of shadow, 1 degree away. This is exciting times. And I know that it seems like it's going to be crazy, because there's going to be this south node that's still making it seem like it's the worst of times. And that's why we're here on High Vibe, bringing the high vibes to you to see the truth and to see through what is God saying? What is the cosmos saying? Sunday, kabam! The moon is going to shift into Gemini, and this is actually going to be, it's going to shift on Saturday night, actually. But this is while Mercury is out of shadow. So, you know, Mercury's coming out of shadow. It's back at full force, speed. So Mercury's at its full speed from Earth's point of view. We've got the moon in Gemini with the sun in Aries making a nice sextile and a waxing sextile. Bam, baby. This is going to bring excitement back to life. We're going to see Venus, of course, that has made the trines to Pluto and Jupiter. And look at that, Pluto, Jupiter, 24-24. This is a major completion point that is starting to begin. Mars at 29 degrees. There's something on edge. There's something about to change. It's about to conjunct Saturn. And don't let Mars and Saturn scare you. Mars and Saturn will only scare you if you're trying to, you know, go to the bathroom when you don't need to, when you're straining too hard and you push too hard. This is a time for you to accept and focus on timing, and focus and see that there is the right timing of events that are starting to show up. Uranus at 5 degrees. This is a major change. Uranus at 5 is a much more mercurial energy. It's a much more higher energy, and this is going to be about moving the world in a much more place. And with Mercury out of its shadow, we're going to see more answers. We're going to see people figuring things out. Data is going to be much more clear. The world's going to be much more clear, and the moon is not going to be so upset like it was last month, with the square to Mercury retrograde in Pisces, with the square to the Sun in Pisces, with the square to Neptune in Pisces at the same time. So this is going to be a much different feeling. When we come into Monday, holy cow. Talk about a new world starting to enter. That is because Mars, 2959, going to come into Aquarius, going to be there with Saturn at that point. We're going to see something very major on March 30th into the 31st, especially dealing with the government and especially with Trump, because he was part of that election time when that happened. And the moon at 21 degrees, you know, this moon's really not making any aspects. So it's going to be a void off course moon unless you want to count these quincunxes. But I think that this Venus at 26, Venus on Algol. It's about not using the energy of greed. It's about using the energy of what you have to do something good with, or the things that you ask for, you're going to use them as a tool to do something good for the light. The sun will be trining Antares. The sun will be sextiling Aldebaran. I'm telling you, this is a moment that we are coming into the greatest shift that we have seen ever. Jupiter and Pluto starting to conjunct, and we are getting ready to come into April, and that is going to happen in that week. April 2nd, we are coming to that conjunction point. I'm telling you all, folks, this is the week that is bringing us to the greatest changes of all time. There is more positive than negative that is happening. It is this illusion of negativity. It is the illusion of the fear that is going to try and grip you harder than ever when there is so much positive. Focus on that love. Focus on those great things. It's going to be an amazing week. We talk about it every day on High Vibe. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you join my Love Masterclass. That's on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. And you can just watch the recordings if you can't make it live. Go to theloyalking.com or highvibe.tv. I love you all so much. Thank you for all the support. We're going to make it through, baby. These are amazing times. I'm telling you, it'll mind blow you coming into April, and I am not April Fool's joking you. Woo! Let's see it all go down. No fear. Rock it out. High Vibe, baby. Talk to you later.